Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the 49ers Roundtable. We weren't here yesterday, so we're here today. We're going to talk a lot about the 49ers, where they stand in free agency, what they've done, what they can do next. But first, we're going to handle the big news that's hanging over the entire league, not just the 49ers. Deshaun Watson. News just broke a few minutes ago that the attorney who's handling the lawsuit against Watson is now representing 12 women. It started off as 2, now it's 12. He also says there's 10 more that could join the lawsuit. It's getting unreal how this has escalated the last few days. A lot of teams, it seemed like, were waiting to make a move for Watson, including potentially the 49ers. Now this seems like it's going to, best case scenario for Deshaun Watson is he clears his name, but it could take some time. Worst case scenario is he might never play again in the NFL. Should the 49ers continue to wait for Deshaun Watson? Who wants to start?
I can start on this one. I'll go ahead. The timing of everything is really interesting because, in my opinion, the way I've always have perceived Deshaun Watson ever since he was at Clemson was that he always seemed like a good person. Of course, this is from afar. I don't know Deshaun Watson personally. None of us do. Just the timing of everything. And you read about the lawyer that's making these charges or that's representing all of these women and how he was friends with the former Houston Texans owner, Bob McNair. It's a really, I don't know how to feel about it, but as far as the 49ers go, I would like for them to follow the situation closely and monitor what's going on. And if Deshaun Watson does eventually clear his name, yes, 100%, they should go after him. But they shouldn't do anything before that. They have to let this whole thing unfold, see what happens, and then reevaluate from there.
They definitely have to wait because they cannot trade right now and go in on that. But I just want to wait till the legal process plays out completely before any decisions made. But you definitely have to wait because these are very important allegations that we have to acknowledge. You can't ignore, and they're not being ignored, at least on Twitter. So that's good.
Yeah, I think the 49ers are in a position where they're pretty much, I think, like the rest of the NFL, they're stuck having to wait at this point because I don't see a team that would be willing to bring this into their franchise, the allegations that are out there into their franchise. So I think they're going to have to wait. Should they continue to wait? I don't know if I'd say that. I definitely would like to see him grab Watson. Throughout this whole process, a lot of us were saying that that it would probably be later in the offseason before Watson would even come to the 49ers anyway. So I don't have a problem with him waiting. So based on your question, I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead and continue to wait and see what happens here between free agency and the draft. That'll help make the decision.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like if the Niners want to go for Watson and that plan involves not drafting a quarterback, so it potentially could bypass the draft, not take a quarterback, wait for Watson, and then he doesn't clear his name theoretically, and then now you're in a tough spot. That would be the downside there. It seems to me that if Watson is going to clear his name, it's going to take a while. It's not one girl, it's now 12. So that means I think you're waiting a long time. And then maybe it just comes out that it's just a total conspiracy, like what Nick's saying. It's all trumped up by some people who want to ruin his life. That's possible. But if it's not that, if it just goes away because the women sign non-disclosure agreements, like what happened with Ben Roethlisberger, people are still going to remember this about Deshaun Watson. People will still have their opinions about him. And I feel like this particular area, the Bay Area, it's very liberal. And if the Niners were to bring him in and he weren't 100% exonerated and there were still questions about it, or it just went away because of some NDAs, I still think it'd be a hard sell in the Bay Area bringing Deshaun Watson. I feel like it's starting to look like if a week ago, I thought there was like a 45% chance the Niners could get Watson. Now I'm thinking there's like a 5% chance they could get him. Not because I think he's guilty, but just I feel like it would just be really difficult at this point. So we'll see. This story keeps changing hourly. Let's just move on from that. Samson Nebucham spoke with the Bay Area media today for the first time, and it was interesting. First question was, what would you say you do here? What is your role? You played outside linebacker in a 3-4 on the Rams. What do you do here? He said, well, I think I'm playing D-end. I'm pretty sure I'm playing D-end, which is interesting. So it doesn't mean he's going to be like a part-time outside linebacker. Aziz, I'll show you. He's going to be D Ford. It may be better. So if that's the case and he plays 700-800 snaps next year, how many sacks do you think he's going to have? Jack,
I think you could, if he's going to be playing pretty much, if we take all of those snaps that Ford has played, say for example, in 2019, I think you can see Nebucham get somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 easily, based off of his production, just with the limited number of snaps that he was getting with Los Angeles.
I'll go with 7.5. Just, I believe, 1 sack below what Kerry Hyder had last season. I think being a speed rusher, which I perceive Nebucham to be, is good in this defense, especially if Nick Bosa's back. And with the scrambling in this division, it's good to have a speed rusher because you push Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray back to where you just re-signed DJ Jones and Eric Armstead. You have Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw there. So I'll go 7.5. And I think he's good at getting forced fumbles, so that's important in this defense too.
I think Maverick laid out a good barometer there with the Kerry Hyder reference. I can see him finishing the season in that 8.5 sack range. This signing has really, really grown on me as the week has progressed. I wrote an article on it the night that he signed, and I drew the comparison to Shaq Barrett. Of course, Barrett was on the Denver Broncos defense with a lot of talent, DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, and then he just kind of exploded once he was given more of an opportunity with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you look at Nebucham's athletic ability, he's a very explosive athlete. And in that D Ford role, I can really see him thriving there, using that speed, getting around the corner, and he has a nice bull rush as well. So I am high on this signing, and especially considering you see what the edge rushers have been getting, guys like Carl Lawson and all the money they've been making. So for $6 million a year, I like this signing a lot, and I see him in that 8.5 sack range.
They're getting him to replace D Ford. He's a lot different than D Ford. D Ford would be the guy who got into the backfield really quickly, maybe didn't get the sack, but then forced the quarterback to move and allowed all the other pass rushers to make their move at that point. It becomes more like the other pass rushers. His first move is good, but it's what he does after the first move. It's how relentless he is, his motor and stuff. So he doesn't necessarily replace D Ford, but he fits what the Niners do. I do think he's really good. I was just talking to a coach who made the point. It's like, look, he's unrefined as a pass rusher, but he's been playing linebacker. You bring him to the Niners and have him as a full-time D end, going through the pass rush drills every day with Chris Kosarick. He should improve. He needs a couple counters. If he gets those, guy said he's a 9 or 10 sack guy. I'm going to say he gets 9 sacks this year. If Kerry Hyder can get 8.5 off of pure effort, then this guy, I think, has a little more juice than Kerry Hyder. So I'm going to say 9 next year, Samson Nebucham. I'm optimistic. I think he's a good player. But he's really the only new addition, along with soon-to-be 36-year-old Alex Mack. Mack and Nebucham, the new guys. The Niners lost Kendrick Bourne, Ahkello Witherspoon. Still haven't re-signed K'Wan Williams, Jaquiski Tartt, few guys. So the question is, are the Niners better than they were a week ago? Nicholas. You're muted. You're good.
I'm good. Okay. So the question for me, as long as Trent Williams has came back, which he did, re-signed with the team, the only thing that really matters, it doesn't matter who comes, who goes with the current players, as long as Trent Williams is back. And now that he's locked up, Kyle Juszczyk's back. They're the same team, in my opinion. Does Nebucham provide more speed on the edge? Yes, but the bottom line is, can this team stay on the field? So on paper, they're right where they were at, maybe a little bit improved, but it's always going to come down, can the cornerstone players stay healthy?
100%. I do believe they're better than they were last week, because last week weren't sure if Trent Williams was coming back. Did not know if Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Mosley would be back for sure. And I think getting those guys back is big for this defense and for Williams on offense. We don't have to argue about left tackle anymore, at least for the next 4 years, hopefully. So I think that's always a good thing to have. It might be more than some of us were willing to pay, but it got him back, and that's what's important, at least for 2021.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit better. I think when you look at it, Nebucham's definitely filling a need that they needed. And Mack really helps out with that offensive line. They really struggled, I think, a lot of last year because of the issues they had at the center spot. So that's definitely helped there. I think the loss of Bourne is going to be bigger than people really believe. So that's part of why I say I don't think it's that big. Plus, Witherspoon going to Seattle, I think people kind of aren't really thinking that's a big deal. But Witherspoon's ought to be a heck of a player, I think, in their system with the way that they let those cornerbacks get physical. I think that's really going to suit his style when he gets up there. So I'd say they're better, but not really a whole lot.
Yeah, look what happened to DJ Reed when he went from the Niners to the Seahawks. He went from struggling nickelback on the Niners to starting outside cornerback for the Seahawks. There might be something there. I'm not necessarily certain the Niners are better than they were a week ago. I mean, I'm just saying that, like, Trent Williams was on the team a week ago, even though he technically was a free agent. I'm thinking of him that way. Like, he was on the team still. He hadn't hit free agency still, so I'm weaseling out of the question that way. But Alex Mack's a big improvement. I mean, they could have got Rodney Hudson or Corey Linsley, but still, Alex Mack is a big improvement over Hronis Grasu or whatever. So that's big. I mean, Samson Nebucham I like a lot, but right now he's replacing Kerry Hyder, who did have a hell of a season. So it's not a huge upgrade there. And as Jack said, losing Kendrick Bourne, they'll replace him in the draft. But right now they haven't replaced him, and he was dependable. He got a lot of snaps, a lot of targets. He was a big part of their team. No replacement for K1 yet. No replacement for Tart yet. They're going to address these things. But right now, I wouldn't say that they're better. I wouldn't say that they're worse either, though. The Alex Mack thing could be really important because he brings the leadership that Trent Williams doesn't. And if he's not way over the hill, then he's still a good player. So I want to say they're about the same. I don't know. I didn't answer the question. But it's my show. I can do that. If Joe Flacco were to come to the 49ers, would that be a good signing? Jack, why don't you hit this one first?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that bringing Flacco in would be a really good sign. I know people are yesterday when that first broke, a lot of folks, myself included, were kind of joking around about that. But then you start looking at what Flacco did in last year with the Jets. And if you look at his game against Arizona and his game against New England, he arguably played just as good, if not better, than Jimmy Garoppolo played in those two games. And that's with a bad Jets team. He definitely, of the two Jets quarterbacks, we keep hearing all this talk about trading for Sam Darnold. If I've got to make a decision between trading for Sam Darnold or signing Joe Flacco, I'm doing Flacco every day of the week because he's just better. And you can see that on film when you watch him play. For a guy his size, he still moves really well. I think he probably right now moves better than any of the quarterbacks on the 49ers roster from last year. So definitely an upgrade there. He also has experience in Shanahan's system. He played for Gary Kubiak, ran the offense in Baltimore. I think it was 2014. Happened to be his second best season of his career, and he played with Scangarello in Denver in 2019. So he's got history in the system, and I think he'd be a terrific backup quarterback, even if he has to play and start.
My concern with bringing Flacco in would be if he does get thrust into the lineup, whether by ineffective play ahead of him or injury, he doesn't really fit what the offense currently is, at least the personnel, in my opinion. His great games with the Jets last year or not great, but good games with the Jets last year. He had Brashad Perriman and Denzel Mims, who are both burners, and the 49ers don't really have that on the roster. If they address a field stretcher, if that's Travis Benjamin or whatever, then that does change it a little for me. But I think unless you're confident in the quarterback going on a heater like Nick Foles did to win that Super Bowl with your backup quarterback, I'd rather just get a backup that kind of fits what your starter is more familiar with the offense. And like Jack said, Flacco's familiar with the offense, so that is a plus. But I think he's just too much of an opposite of what Garoppolo is.
This is another one of those signings that sounds very underwhelming at first. And I believe it was Matt Mayoko that tweeted it out yesterday that if the 49ers were to bring in Flacco, it would be the strongest endorsement by John Lynch yet that the team's committed to Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't necessarily see it that way, where if they do bring in Flacco, that they're hand-tied with Garoppolo over the course of the 2021 season. But I do like Flacco for the same reason I like Alex Mack. He's inserted in the starting lineup, brings that veteran presence. He's a guy who's been around the block, and that's Joe Flacco. He has a lot of big game experience, and I feel like if the 49ers had a more mature backup quarterback last season, they might have squeaked into that 7th seed in the NFC. So I think bringing in a veteran backup quarterback is a good thing. It's not a big flashy free agent signing or a big move at the quarterback position, but it doesn't necessarily tie them into committing to Garoppolo, which is a positive. And again, you have some stability there at the QB2 position, which is definitely a spot that the team needs to upgrade at.
Yeah, Jack made a lot of great points. I mean, he would be a better backup than Sam Darnold. And if you're looking for backups, He's probably the best option right now. He is a career winner. He's like 90 wins in his career. He's played in a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. His resume is a lot like Garoppolo's in a way. But then I come back to what Nick said, Mayoko tweeted, and that's my problem with this, is that I kind of look at it the way Mayoko does. If they sign Joe Flacco, it is really an endorsement of Jimmy Garoppolo for another year, and I have a problem with that. They should be moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. They should be drafting a guy. They should not be sticking by Jimmy Garoppolo. They should be moving him out. It should either be Jimmy is the bridge quarterback or someone else is the bridge quarterback. And Joe Flacco, to me, is a backup at this point in his career. I mean, he has a good deep ball. He always has. I don't think he's that he doesn't have that much of a quick release. He's not that accurate on the short and intermediate stuff. I don't think he's the greatest fit for what the Niners are now. He'd be a better fit for what the Falcons were doing 4 or 5 years ago. I prefer Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith is actually a better bridge quarterback, a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. But for some reason, I don't think that's going to happen. And maybe Alex Smith doesn't want to come back to the Niners. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe he doesn't want to come back. I mean, he kind of said that he had a problem with like the culture. And that's not Kyle. That's Parag and Jed. So they can't get Alex. I don't have a problem with Joe Flacco. I just, if it's what Mayoko said, then I do have a problem with it. They should be drafting a quarterback. If they just sign 36-year-old Joe Flacco and be like, we'll wait a year. We might get Aaron Rodgers next year. We might get Deshaun Watson next year, or Kirk Cousins 2 years from now. Like, well, come on. It's the only problem.
Yeah, I don't think, real quick, just to kind of jump in, I don't think that signing Flacco – I don't think signing Flacco and keeping Garoppolo for this year really would prohibit them from getting a guy, say, like Kellen Mond.
Cool.
I think Kellen Mond is the guy that they can get in the second round. Or, I think it opens up a lot of the things that they could do, So
that's fine by me.
And then in terms of the 49ers personnel, the quarterback that can throw the ball downfield, I think is going to make Brandon Ayuk better.
True. That's a good point. I think that's a good point. It's not really Debo's game, but it is definitely Brandon Ayuk's game. We just haven't seen it. And George Kittle as well. So that's two guys. Okay, good point, Jack. All right, let's move on. Are the Niners done in free agency? Because I really was liking all the moves that they were making. It was a lot of hits on YouTube and SI every time someone came, go. Now it's like nothing the last 2 days, and I'm upset. Is there anything else that we can look forward to?
I think so.
Besides Flacco,
K'Wan Williams with the Desmond King signing yesterday, I was really taken back that he signed for $3.5 million. He's an All-Pro defensive back. He was an All-Pro his second year in the league. He's an explosive returner. Those are two things the 49ers really could have used on their roster, and to sign for only $3.5 million. I don't know how you can justify K'Wan Williams or make a strong argument that K'Wan Williams deserves more than that when someone else just signed for $3.5 million that already has an All-Pro appearance on his resume. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think we may see one of either Kerry Hyder or K'Wan Williams return. And if I had a bet, I'd have my money on K'Wan Williams.
I think they might be done at least for this first wave of signing guys outside the organization. As the offseason goes on, I think it could expand like it did last year when they started entertaining Mohamed Sanu and Travis Benjamin and a couple receivers to bolster that part of the offense. But I'm pretty comfortable if they do what Nick said, if they bring back K'Wan Williams and or Kerry Hyder. I think that'd be still a solid offseason, and then they can use the draft because they didn't trade those draft picks and get better in that facet, because I think, as we're touching on later, there's a lot of guaranteed money in future years, and they got to figure out how to save some money down the line.
Yeah, I don't think they're done yet. I think there's still a few signings that they're going to be looking to make. There might be a running back that they decide to bring in. They definitely they still have to find somebody for that slot corner position. And they need to be able to, they need some depth at defensive end. They don't have that right now. They have Bosa and they have Nebucham, but beyond that, they don't have anything there right now. So there's definitely some moves that they're going to be making, I think, left in free agency.
I just wonder how they're going to pull it off, though. I'm terrible with the contracts. I see they have about $13 million in cap space left. Usually 8 or 9 goes to the rookies. So you got maybe 4 or 5 million. Seems like they may not be able to give out many 1-year deals unless they're close to the vet minimum. They could give out 2-3-year deals and backload the contracts as they've been doing. Give out a signing bonus, make the first year cap hit really low, and worry about the rest later. They could do that. So if they want to bring back K'Wan Williams on a backloaded 3-year deal, they could. If they want to sign Joe Flacco to the vet minimum, they could. But what about a guy like Jaquiski Tartt? He could take a 1-year deal, but he's not going to take the vet minimum. He might want $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. The Niners probably can't afford that. So I don't know what the next move they're going to make is, but I feel like they're kind of looking for either the Joe Flacco guy or someone who's cool taking like Alex Mack, a backloaded 3-year deal, something like that. I don't know who fits in there.
We need to see what the new deal was for D Ford, because we don't know those numbers yet. So that's going to jump that number up from probably 12 range, maybe up to back into the 20s again, which gets hope back into. We just don't know what they haven't put those numbers out yet.
That's why I hate talking about the cap. I try my hardest to like inform myself, and then I realize I'm not even close. What was I talking about? I wasted my time. The longer K'Wan Williams stays in free agency, the more likely the Niners retain him, in my opinion. You feel like he thought he might have a bigger market than he has, and he might just come back because he's valued here, because there's familiarity and he has a house here. I don't know if he has a house here, but something like that. Perhaps.
Well, another thing to keep in mind, I don't even think it was recently that K'Wan Williams lost his money. I talked about this over the course of this past season, where he had so much momentum going into the 2020 season after what he did in 2019. Again, I think he was the best playmaker on the back end of the 49ers defense, forcing fumbles, intercepting passes, and just his inability to stay on the field this past season along. And then he had the suspension that got pulled. Remember, he was suspended and then it was like revoked or something like that. That definitely happened. I think it was over performance enhancing drugs, but he did not end up getting suspended. I think there was a mistake there. But anyway, over this past year, K'Wan Williams, he was on track to be paid the highest slot corner. And Quentin Dunbar is also a free agent. He had the reputation of being the best slot corner in the league. So I 100% agree that the longer this thing goes on, the more likely it is that K'Wan Williams comes back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, what were you going to say, Jack?
I was just going to say, it reminds me a lot of the Sean Goldson deal back in after 2011, 2012. That same thing happened to him.
Yeah. I remember he wanted to be paid as much as, who was the guy? The free safety on the Chargers. He thought he was as good as the guy in the Chargers. And I remember Trent Baalke. Yes, Weddle. I remember Baalke like whispering around he's not Weddle. I don't know why. I don't know what to tell him. He's not as good as Weddle. I guess he wasn't as good as Weddle. I guess Baalke was right.
Wasn't it Deshaun Goldson that just destroyed Terrell Brown in one of the playoff games?
Yes.
Yeah, took his head off, yeah.
And then Tremaine Brock came in and gave up the touchdown pass to Manningham?
Yeah.
Manningham always was the guy. I never understood that. And then the Niners got him, and he did. Do you think the Niners still will target an offensive lineman in the first 3 rounds? Remember, the Niners have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds. They got, I'll read them off, 12, 43, and 102. What do you think?
I'm not sure if it's going to be in the first 3 rounds, but I feel pretty confident that they're going to be targeting an offensive lineman. They need to find somebody that can play center, and so that might be in the 3rd round in that ballpark. That's really the one spot that they need to add. Mack's going to be good, but at his age and with the way that his contract's structured, it's really more or less a 1-year deal, maybe 2. So and that's the one spot they don't have a backup at right now. So I think you're going to see them go in center somewhere in the first 4 rounds, probably.
I think that they should. I know a lot of people love Quinn Miners because of the memes he provided at the Senior Bowl, but he is still very talented. And that would kind of fill the role that Jack was talking about, is you can slide him in at right guard this first year with Alex Mack at center. And if Alex Mack retires, then you can slide Quinn Miners over to center because he's been projected as a center long-term. He just needs time to adjust to NFL speed coming from Wisconsin Whitewater. And I think that makes a perfect pairing right there. Is in 2022, Miners can be the center. Or if Mack comes back, you keep Miners at right guard. And if it goes another year, you do the same thing all over again. And you get to keep Brunskill as that 6th man. And that's important in this offense, especially with how many guys are injury prone, I would say, in this offense. You can slide Brunskill at right tackle, right guard, center. He could probably play left guard if you needed him to, and he could play left tackle at times too as well. So that'd be important to this team.
I can see the 49ers drafting an offensive lineman in a trade back scenario in the first 3 rounds. And maybe they will, even without trading down and picking up additional picks. I would certainly not have a problem with it if they beefed up the offensive line. I really like Wyatt Davis in the 2nd round. I would like for them to find a long-term solution at right guard. And it seems like ever since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch stepped in, there's been a constant revolving door at right guard and not really any stability there at that position. So a guy like Wyatt Davis, Ohio State, I wouldn't mind. Quinn Miners, I like him a lot too. So I think it becomes a lot more likely if the 49ers trade down, pick up additional picks. Otherwise, I want them trying to draft impact players and capitalize on all the cornerstone players they have that can really make a championship Super Bowl push.
Unless the 49ers intend to do what they did in 2018, where they knew they were going to move on from Trent Brown, they just didn't say it, and they held on to him and then drafted McGlinchey, and everyone was like, oh, really? They didn't have a need at right tackle, and then boom, they traded Trent Brown the next day. Unless they do that, and that's their plan for Mike McGlinchey, I don't see him drafting an offensive lineman in the first 2 days, the first 3 rounds, because they've already pretty much shown they won't draft a guard high. They could draft a center high, but I feel like they probably won't. I don't know why. I just feel like they won't, and they'll probably target that 5th round where they took Colton McKivitz last year. I mean, that's what Mike Shanahan used to do when he was with the Broncos. They would take offensive linemen late. They would take guys who weighed like 290 pounds that the rest of the league weren't really interested in, but they could move and fit their system. So I'm thinking they'll try to find some depth later in the draft, and they'll hold off on it. But that's just a gut feeling. Spencer Brown out of UNIOT, 6'9", 315, 500 bench, has been working with Joe Staley. Guy's a monster. Well, I already like him better than Mike McGlinchey, so why not? Spencer Brown, been working with Joe Staley. McGlinchey should do that. Okay, so we were talking about when the Niners will draft an offensive lineman. When do you think the 49ers will draft a wide receiver? Because I think that's one of the most predictable things every year with the Niners. They take at least one wide. I think they've taken one every year, at least one.
They have.
So it was 2 in 18, 2 last year, right? 2 the year, 2. Yeah, 2. It's been 3 years in a row. So when do you think the Niners will take their first wide receiver this year?
Wow. If they're –
oh, no!
You moved me. What happened?
My bad. Sorry about that.
It's all good. I'm like, what? I disappeared off this. Okay.
All right, try again.
I lost my train of thought there. Okay, let me.
When will the 49ers draft a wide receiver?
So if they're really committed to Jimmy Garoppolo, it would not completely shock me if they went wide receiver at 12. And I was talking to Larry Kruger. I had him on my podcast, Larry Kruger of KMBR, and he said if Jamar Chase somehow falls to 12th overall, generational talent like that who sat out this past year of football, and this is a really good wide receiver class, I wouldn't be completely shocked. Yes, the 49ers have other needs. They're in a position to find a long-term answer at cornerback. Quarterback they could trade up for, so a lot of moves they can make. But Kyle Shanahan loves drafting wide receivers. He loves having playmakers. So really, it's a complete wild card. Who knows when they're going to invest in a wide receiver, but I'm sure they will again this draft.
I think if they can trade back at 12, which is what I'm kind of hoping they're doing now that they have Trent Williams and don't need a left tackle anymore, they can get one of those picks and then use that on a wide receiver. And that'd be good because I like a lot of 3rd to 4th round guys, and I think that would help this offense. I think they do need to add to the slot receiver competition with Richie James, and I guess Trent Sherfield is in that competition. I was reading that he is supposedly a slot option, and I think it'd be wise to add another option in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I think that you'll see something in the middle rounds where they're going to go wide receiver. There's a couple of guys that they've met with in the draft or in their pre-draft visit so far. Rondale Moore, I think his name is, out of Purdue. Then the running back / wide receiver out of UCLA that's pretty good as well. So
Felton.
Felton. Those are guys that I think that they've already talked to and met with. That Felton would fill a couple different roles for him, and it kind of fills that same, what they're hoping to get out of Jerick McKinnon. So I think you'll see something probably in the 3-4 range from them when it comes to that position.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they want to replace, obviously they want to replace Kendrick Bourne, but they really want to replace Trent Taylor. They always wanted Trent Taylor to be like a contributor in their offense, and he got hurt and stopped being effective, but they drafted him in the 5th round, their first year in town. They held on to him for 4 years. He's gone. I think they're going to look to replace that role. The slot receiver only, the dude who's like 5'6" and isn't that fast, but gets open really quickly. Wes Welker's still the wide receiver coach. Jimmy Garoppolo is still the quarterback. I think they'll look for a Trent Taylor type wide receiver in round 5. They have 3 5th-round picks. It's by far the best round that they draft in. I'm thinking a little a little white wide receiver in round 5. Not to make it racial, because it doesn't have to be racial, but I'm just saying the next Wes, they're going to call him, he's the next Wes Welker. That's a tough one to say. Rich Kelt says, if brick by brick sticks to the script, quarterback is the next brick. You know who I want? Yeah, he likes Trey Lance. Not who do you think the Niners will get? Who would y'all select early in the draft at quarterback? Okay, why doesn't everyone go around and say, if the pick is quarterback, who would you take, and would you move up? Would you stand pat? Would you move down? But if that's got to be the first pick, who would it be?
Mac Jones. He's my guy.
Oh, okay, so how would you handle that? How would you maneuver?
I'm not moving. I'm staying at 12. I'm not going to trade up for any of these quarterbacks. If he's there at 12, I'm taking him. If he's not there at 12, I trade back and I'll look for somebody in the second round. I think either trade, in the second round or maybe, having to jump back at the end of the first to get somebody if I need to.
Love it. Mav.
I don't think Wilson or Lawrence will be there, or Lance. And so I'm going Fields at 12 if he's there. I don't think he'd be there, but I'll talk myself into Mac Jones if they draft him. But as of right now, I'm not big on him. But I'll be into him like I was with Brandon Ayuk. I wasn't a fan of it at the time. Talked myself into it really quickly after that. So that's what will happen.
For me, I'll take any of the 3 quarterbacks I see potentially there at 12 between Lance, Jones, and Fields, either of those guys. And I have no problem moving up. If you have the opportunity to get your franchise quarterback for the next 10 plus years, you do it. And if Kyle Shanahan feels that way about any of the quarterbacks in this draft, I have zero problem with it. Zero problem with it. That's where I'm at.
I would trade down for Kellen Mond, but if that's impossible and the Patriots would take him at 15 or his stock goes through the roof, then I would take him at 12. I think what intrigues me about him is the experience at such a young age. Like 46 starts at 21 in the SEC is – I can't think of anyone else ever like that. They say he's inconsistent. They say he doesn't have much downfield accuracy. I'd like to see him on the Niners with Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. He's got a hell of an arm. He's got a strong arm. He's mobile. I've talked about him ad nauseum. I'm going to stop. So I would trade down for Kellen Mond. That was a cool one. That was a little from the hip, shooting from the hip for our readers. Thanks, everyone. Okay, let's get back to our scheduled programming. When will the Niners draft a cornerback?
If they don't trade up for a quarterback or no quarterbacks are available at 12, this is where I see them selecting a cornerback. There's a lot of good corners in that range between Surtain and J.C. Horn. There's a lot of playmaking corners, and this has been a need for the 49ers for so long. They have not had a young, electrifying cornerback in my lifetime. It's been that long. Really, I'm trying to think of who's been the last young, really good corner. There's been a lot of good veteran cornerbacks that have come in, but they haven't really drafted any cornerbacks that have panned out early on in the draft. So that's the position I would look to draft if quarterback or if no quarterbacks are really available there at 12.
Not an Ahmed Plummer guy, I guess, Nick.
I was like 2, 5.
We'll move on from that fun era. But I really like Paulson Adebo from Stanford. I think he's 4th round, and if 3rd or 4th round, if he was there, or Elijah Molden to fill that slot role if K'Wan Williams doesn't re-sign. Those are kind of the cornerbacks I've been looking at, because I just don't see this regime going corner in the 1st round. It'd be cool if they drafted Surtain or Farley or J.C. Horn, but I think it's going to be 3rd or 4th round guy.
Muted.
Looking at the guys that they've talked to right now, the highest rated guy that they've met with so far is Asante Samuel Jr. Not sure where he's going to fall. But right now, when you look at least the guys that they've talked to that are known that they've talked to, they're mostly in the middle, like probably a little bit later on. And Matt probably knows about the guy out of Oregon, Lenore. So that's one of the other guys that they've talked to as well. I don't know anything about him, but where he'd go.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners haven't drafted a cornerback before round 3 since 2002, I want to say, 2004. Shante Spencer, I think, was the last one. Maybe it was 2004. I don't see that changing. I think that's an organizational thing. I think that's a Parag Marat thing. They feel that they can get better value later. They drafted Akello Witherspoon in the 3rd round. He's gone. They could replace him. I'm thinking maybe not all the way at 103 or whatever where they draft in round 3, but they have all those day 3 picks. They might trade up, target someone in the middle of round 3 and move up and get. I have no idea who that would be. Maybe the kid from Cal. Bynum, someone big though. Someone 6'2" or bigger because they need someone that big. They don't have someone that big. Real quick, D-Loke says, why not sign AB at wide receiver and roll the dice? I think he's chasing a big payday in his future and he's cheap. I don't know. Why don't we ask the Raiders? It seems if you don't have Tom Brady or someone who commands that level of respect at quarterback, it's probably not a good idea to bring in Antonio Brown. Yeah. Unless he's just a totally different person now. I don't know. Maybe he's different.
Well, maybe. Is Garoppolo all of a sudden going to start throwing the ball down the field if he's the quarterback?
Yeah, you think he didn't like Derek Carr. Derek Carr is actually pretty good.
I'm just going to say, so remember last year I wrote that article about why the 49ers and Antonio Brown were perfect for each other. And what ended up happening, I saw it happen with the Buccaneers and Tom Brady. What I kind of saw would happen if the 49ers needed a veteran wide receiver down the stretch. Of course, they never signed Antonio Brown. They didn't end up making the playoffs, but he contributed on that Super Bowl run. So I think that's a good point that you laid out, Grant, that Jimmy Garoppolo does not command the same kind of respect as Tom Brady, demand the same sort of excellence. And I think that that's where Antonio, he should just go back to the Buccaneers because he has that great relationship with Brady, you know. But I love the idea of adding a high ceiling veteran to this young 49ers receivers group. But I'm not as sold as I was last year at this time that it would really work out for both parties in San Francisco for Santa Clara.
All right. Last question, then trivia, because it is trivia day here at All 49ers. Are you guys concerned about the 49ers backloading contracts for older players? Specifically, Kyle Juszczyk, Trent Williams. Who else, Jack? Alex Mack.
Not really. Not Mack so much. It's really those first two, Trent Williams and Kyle Juszczyk. Those are rough contracts when you start getting down the road with them because, you know, if you look at Trent Williams, for example, even in his second to last year of that contract, he's still going to count for over $12 million of dead cap. You know, he's going to be $27 mil in 2024, just over $12 million in dead cap. And that's rough. You know, and same thing with Kyle Juszczyk. You're looking at a guy in Juszczyk. You have really good numbers with him for the first couple of years, but you're not going to get rid of him in year three. In year three, you're stuck paying an old fullback between $6.6 and $5.3 million, depending on what you decide to do. I understand the cap's going to be going up quite a bit here in the future. They're expecting, but those are still big numbers for old guys. And you know, if you want to build, you know, the cap's easy to manage, but that management of the cap needs to come when you're dealing with younger players that you can push that money out. With guys like Williams and Juszczyk, you're not going to be able to push that money out. You're stuck paying them because you're not going to want to extend them beyond what their current deals are, I believe.
I'm always a little concerned about backloading deals just because you're playing with fire, because if there's a guy you really love and 3 years from now, you might not be able to afford him. But in this instance, I think it's fine just because the way that restructuring has been going on, and I'm hoping for a bigger salary cap boom as the NFL continues to grow and we get more further removed from this COVID shortened salary cap. I think that will help out. The Williams and Juszczyk deals are interesting, but hopefully a restructure would kind of fix that.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned with the 49ers backloading the contracts. It's kind of what they had to do with the cap being at $182.5 million this year. I'm not one to really stress over the cap anyway. Every single year you hear about how these teams have their hands tied with the cap and then they go and restructure deals. And, you know, this year was a little more intense where teams like the Rams and the Saints are losing starters. But with the new TV deal, the salary cap's going to shoot right back up. And I don't know it sounded like to me with the Trent Williams deal, the first 3 years are really fully guaranteed. Then you can move on from him with some cap penalty. But again, not as much as you'd have to pay him. So I'm not too concerned with it. And again, this is what the 49ers needed to do given the cap and how it's set right now.
I think it's interesting. The Niners used to make deals where they would like give a lot of money up front, but they could sort of get out no penalty free after 2 years. They did it with Kaepernick. They did it with Garoppolo. It used to be what they did. Like give themselves like these get out of jail free cards in case the player gets hurt or just isn't the player they used to be. Since Kyle and John have gotten here, they've kind of given these contracts out there that are the opposite. Like, we love you. We've seen enough. We want you long term. And we're going to backload the deal and make it, you know, worthwhile for us. But we don't want to get rid of you. We want to keep you here long term. And that's great until Weston Richburg gets hurt or D Ford gets hurt. And it's like, well, now you're stuck with a dude who can't play anymore, and you gave him this contract when he was old anyway. So that's why I'm with Jack a little bit on this one. A little concerned that backloading for Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, he's going to be 30 in a couple of months. Tom Rathman was on the Raiders by the time he was 32. So what is Juszczyk's future? Trent Williams, I mean, he's already 30. He's going to be 33 in a few months. So, are we certain he's going to be playing 16 games a year, consistently moving out? And if these guys start falling off and getting hurt and missing time, that's where the structure of these contracts becomes an issue, because you can't. You're tied to him for years. So
how long is Juszczyk's deal?
5 years.
5 years. So he'll be 35 at the end.
5 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, in that case, it is concerning to me. I wasn't really thinking that, because like, just think of Anthony Sherman, who was probably competing with Juszczyk as the best fullback in the NFL for the last 6 years, and he just retired. No, so 32 is for fullback sometimes is hard. That's a lot of wear and tear. So 35. Credit to Juszczyk if he can keep it up till then, but that is concerning. I agree.
Rathman's last year was at 32. So just something to think about. I mean, I'm not saying Juszczyk and Williams are going to fall off and get hurt and not play that much anymore. But if that happens, the Niners don't have much recourse. It's kind of what we saw with D Ford. So we'll see.
Well, something that I like to look at too, I go back to Eric Armstead's contract and how his cap hit last year, and then this year as well, $12.5 million this year. And then looking after that, he's scheduled to make $20 million or more every single year except for the final, or every single year for the remainder of his contract, $20 million. And if you cut him after June 1st, after 2022, it's a $5 million dead cap, and you're clearing over $15 million in cap space. So that's why, does anybody really see Eric Armstead making $22 million in a season, maybe, if he has another 2019 season? Because and the cap really goes up. Other than that, they're going to have to restructure that deal or move on from Armstead. I don't think he's a $24 million player.
The 49ers don't really like to do June 1st cuts. If you look at their history, they don't really like to do that, because what happens when you do that is you're spreading that number. So it's not only $5 million that first year, it's $5 million the year after that as well. So that's why they don't like to do those kind of moves. So I see what you're saying. I like the moves that they made for 2021, but when you start looking at it beyond that, it's rough, because 2022 right now they only have 25 guys signed, and they only have $15.5 million of cap space. Sure, they're going to probably get about $25 million back when they cut Garoppolo, if that's what they do. And there's going to be a little money, from Ford. But now you're down to 23 guys signed with $40 million in cap space. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do moving forward.
Well, maybe the attitude is, you know what, if it works out, we win the Super Bowl, we'll worry about it then. If it doesn't work out, we'll get fired. It's someone else's problem. One way or another. Who cares?
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
And that's where I'm at. I really think that's the way to go about it. When you see teams like the Chiefs and well, of course, they have Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to try to capitalize and get as much firepower as you can. But I really think that's the philosophy. It's a win-now league. You go after that Super Bowl, you allocate all your funds, and if you give it your best shot, and then you figure it out afterward.
Yeah, I think that's what the Rams are doing. Like, they've getting their best foot forward. If they win this year, great. But there's no future on the Rams. In like 3 years, the whole thing's going to self-combust, and either they'll have rings or they won't. But who cares?
Well, and take that a step further. If every team in the NFC West is just doing that, then you could be making the playoffs at 6-10 in 4 years when you have no cap space, because every team is salary cap strapped.
It's over here.
It's just such a debate. I find this debate so fascinating. Is it worth being extremely competitive for a 5-6 year span like the Rams figure to be? They made the playoffs last 3 of the 4 years, and the 1 year that they did it, they would have made the playoffs as the 7th seed if that were to happen just 1 year earlier. And so they're going to be contenders. And let's just say it all gets blown up 3 years down the road. Was having that Super Bowl window open where you had a really competitive roster.
Only if you win it. Only if you win it.
Only if you win it.
If you win it.
Yeah, it's a great debate. It's a great debate. I really, but anyway.
Yeah. Jack, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, Nick bringing up Kansas City, that's kind of why I went this route, because I agree with Kansas City. Yeah, that's the one, a couple of weeks ago before Williams was signed, I was kind of pointing out the fact that Williams had mentioned them as one of the teams he could go to. And when I mentioned that, they're like, Kansas City don't have it. They're $22 million under the cap. and then they were able to work it out to where they have, they got well over it, like 20 million. They saved like $50 million over. But the thing with Kansas City that's different between them and what the Niners are doing is Kansas City has all their big contracts lined up in their young guys, and so they're able to continually do that with their quarterback and Kelsey. Their big receiver Hill. He's got a big cap hit that they can redo and get some money out of that if they need to down the road. So that's the difference between what Kansas City is, where they are, and where
just keep renegotiating and extending, because that's your core anyway. All right, it's trivia time. We got about 15 minutes left in the show, so let's get right to this. Starting off, well, Maverick's in charge. I'm going to switch spots with him.
I get the upper left.
You get the upper left.
I feel special now. I've never had the upper left.
Trivia champion. Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so first category, 49ers in March.
Mm-hmm.
So it's March Madness going on. Ohio State tied it up, thankfully, because I have them in the championship. So hopefully they keep scoring.
UCLA's in that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My alma mater, too. But we didn't have to.
Is Jack still here, or did he time out? Because it's not fair if he can't. Okay.
Jack's here.
Okay.
I'm going to throw this out. While we're talking about March Madness, I would like to. My bracket's perfect. I'm 5 for 5.
No, hold on. We're not talking about your bracket. We have time. How you dare? Don't you
49ers in March. So it's all like March Madness, like teams that are in March Madness, guys on the Niners right now. Their schools are in March Madness.
Okay.
So
I have no idea who's in March Madness. I'm going to lose. Let's talk.
Yeah, well, that'll be funny then.
Yeah, all right.
We could get Kyle Shanahan's alma mater versus D'Amico Ryans in the Sweet 16. What would those teams be?
Texas, Alabama.
Texas and Alabama.
That's Grant. I heard first.
Yeah, I got 1 point.
I
needed that point.
No tournament last year, the reigning national championship is still Virginia over Texas Tech. Those two teams qualified again, and we'll try to make it back. Who are the two players from the 2020 49ers that represent those two schools? So one from Virginia and one from Texas Tech.
Tim Harris Jr.
Nice. That's one.
Nice.
Texas Tech, though.
Oh.
Terry Daniels.
Kerry Hyder.
Nick is correct. Kerry Hyder.
Okay, we'll split that one.
Okay, so then the 2020 49ers have 31 players whose alma maters earned a bid to March Madness. Name them all. No.
What?
But only 2 that went to schools that earned 1 seeds.
Oh.
Who are these 2 obscure players?
JaMychal Hasty.
That's one.
Mm-hmm.
I can give you the other school.
No. Come on. This is.
And these are played, so Jalen Hurd does not count.
Okay. Illinois. Who's our? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now on the
Who are the number 1 seeds?
No,
the number 1 seeds are Baylor, Gonzaga, Illinois, and Michigan.
So it's got to be Michigan, Illinois.
I don't think there's anybody from Illinois. Well, are you sure? Whoa.
Yeah. He's not a starter.
We lose.
Yeah, Willie Henry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. The famous Willie Henry. He did go to Michigan.
I'll take the point on that, though.
Go Blue, man.
Yeah, he gets the point.
In addition to Henry, the Big Ten has 6 more grads in the tournament. Who are the 6 from Iowa, Michigan State, Purdue, and Ohio State? I gave you the colleges this time.
Okay, we'll go around in order, and Jack starts.
Well, George Kittle.
Yes.
Okay, say it again. So I was going to say that one. What are the ones?
There are 6 players from the 2020 49ers that played in a game.
Okay.
From Iowa, Michigan State, Purdue, and Ohio State. So George Kittle was one, and then Willie Henry obviously was another. So
Nick Bosa.
Nick Bosa is correct.
Oh man, I'm kind of stumped right now. We said. Iowa. Oh, CJ Beathard.
Oh,
that's correct.
Whew.
So there are.
What are the other schools?
Oh, I forgot.
You named Ohio State and Iowa. There is a Michigan State and Purdue.
Okay. You sure about that? Yeah, I'm out too.
Wait, okay. We said Michigan State, Purdue.
Iowa.
Ben Allen has it in the comments. We exhausted the Iowa and Ohio State grads.
I give up.
Michigan State.
I don't know. I lose.
Okay. You guys are going to be really mad you didn't get this.
Well,
Raheem Mostert went to Purdue.
Oh,
And Tabor Pepper is a Michigan.
Tabor Pepper.
Oh, we should have known that.
So it's 2. Grant has 2. Jack and then Nick. I think Nick has 2 and Grant has 2. And then I think Jack's split the point with them. So now this is the final of this category. Mm-hmm. What tournament team has the most 2020 49ers from it?
Gonzaga.
Winner.
St. John's.
Hartford.
South Carolina.
You guys give up?
No.
BYU.
Oh, that might be it. Close. Ooh, that was a good call, Grant.
You remember from the last week's trivia? No, they're in second with 3.
No.
Oh, no, that doesn't sound right. This is hard.
Some random school in Utah. Washington. No, Eastern Washington. No,
it shouldn't be some random school. I'm giving you guys an X. It's Oregon.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh,
great school. Eric Armstead, Deion Jordan, and Hieronymus Grasu, and Joe Walker, the great Joe Walker.
Yeah, Joe Walker's good.
Great special teams president.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Meet the new guys.
Yeah, meet the new guys. Alex Mack. So it's on Alex Mack, Trent Sherfield, and Samson Nebucham.
Yeah.
Alex Mack played for Kyle Shanahan in Cleveland in 2014 and Atlanta in 2016. He had 3 starting quarterbacks of those 3 because I'm not counting Connor Shaw, who started 1 game because I knew you guys wouldn't get Connor Shaw. So who are the 3 quarterbacks that started with Alex Mack at center and Shanahan as the OC?
Wait, let me say something. Are we doing like a hand raise? Or are we doing a shout out?
We'll start with Jack first.
Okay, we're going to do organized. I like it.
There's an easy one. I'm blanking on his name. God,
3 quarterbacks that he played with when?
So when Shanahan was his offensive coordinator. So who was the quarterback for Atlanta in 16?
Matt Ryan.
Yeah, and then Cleveland in 14. So Jack has Matt Ryan. There's 2 more.
Okay. Brian Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer is correct.
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel is correct. So split the point.
Oh, wow. All 49ers coming in strong.
Okay, here's the Trent Sherfield one, so have fun.
I don't know.
No,
I don't even know who he is.
It's easier. Trent Sherfield caught his lone career touchdown against Atlanta in 2018. Tevin Coleman had 11 rushes for 145 yards and a 65-yard touchdown in that game. True or false, the 65-yard touchdown is the longest of Coleman's career?
True. I'm going to say true, too.
False.
It's true. Sorry.
Oh!
I just had to find a way to do Sherfield, and it was hard to find a good question on him. So,
that was like a Hollywood Squares question.
Yeah. Nebucham is an Eastern Washington product. He leaves these 2 collegiate and NFL teammates with Los Angeles to replace Kendrick Bourne as the lone Eagles representative on the Niners.
Could you say that one more time?
Cup?
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp is one, and there's another. You're not going to get the other, but
I might.
Other Eastern Washington teammate with the Rams.
Because
how many players did Eastern Washington have? And
they had a big pro day. Surprisingly, I was looking into the numbers.
I think everyone went to scout Cooper Kupp, and then they saw this guy and Kendrick Bourne. They were all the same year, I believe.
Well, I think Kendrick Bourne already had an invite to the combine, not for Abuka.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Nsimba Webster.
Oh, never heard of him.
He's their kick returner. I knew you wouldn't get that, but I just thought that was weird that the Rams had 3 Eastern Washington guys on one team.
Good name.
So, you're welcome for making that really hard. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Mack was named to the 2010s Hall of Fame team and will be the 5th 49er from that team.
Ooh.
Who are the other 4?
All right. We went Jack first last. Are we going to keep going Jack first?
You go first.
All right. I'm trying to think of a hard one. I was going Joe Staley.
Joe Staley's correct.
Navarro Bowman.
Navarro Bowman's incorrect.
Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman's correct.
Patrick Willis.
Patrick Willis is correct.
That's 2 for me.
That's 2 thus far, Shooter. Oh, you can count. Yeah, and you can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot.
Grant, you might get the point just for that, but
hold on. The question was 5 of the.
There's one more. You said Willis, Sherman, Joe Staley, and Mack is 4, and then there's one more.
There's one more, huh? Oh. Justin Smith.
Justin Smith is incorrect.
I might have the other one. No, I don't think I do.
Well, Nick clinched it with 2 right. It's Frank Gore.
Of course, yeah, he's a pretty good player.
Okay, and then final this one, because this category is doing obviously really well. Samson Nebucham burst onto the scene with his 2 touchdowns in the craziest Monday Night Football game back in 2018. The final score is 55-51. Name the other 8 players that scored a touchdown in that game. So just think of Chiefs and Rams from 2018.
All right. Jack, you're up.
Hill.
Hill's correct. He had 2 of them. Kelsey's correct.
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp is incorrect.
Oh! I'll just eliminate. I'm eliminated for the rest.
Okay.
How about that?
Todd Gurley.
Gurley's incorrect.
Woods.
Oh, Woods is correct. And
Boom.
So Grant clinches it. The others are Chris Conley had 2. Gerald Everett had 2. Josh Reynolds had 1. Kareem Hunt had 1. And Alan Bailey had a defensive score. So there was a couple defensive scores in that game.
How can we forget Alan Bailey's score?
Come on.
Okay, and then this one I think you guys should do much better at. It's 2020 49ers, just reviewing this season, essentially. I keep going back to this one. It's fun. Who threw for more touchdowns this season? Nick Mullins or the combination of C.J. Beathard and Jimmy Garoppolo?
Nick Mullins.
Nick Mullins is incorrect.
Oh, they both get the points.
No points.
Nick Mullins threw 12, and Garoppolo and Beathard combined for 13. So that Kendrick Bourne Hail Mary.
That was the difference.
That was the difference.
Yeah. Who were the 5 players to score at least 4 touchdowns this season?
All right. I got one.
Okay, I'll go first this time. Jeff Wilson Jr.
Jeff Wilson Jr. is correct.
Jerick McKinnon.
McKinnon and Brandon Ayuk are correct.
You said Ayuk? Okay.
Yeah, Jack said Ayuk.
Okay.
Well, how about let's all shout out an answer on like the count of 5 or something. So
there's 2 more. Yeah.
Kyle Juszczyk.
Oh, there's 2 more.
Juszczyk's correct.
Oh, Jack, I'll give you. I have one in mind. You could go ahead, and then I'll.
No, go ahead because I don't have one.
All right, Raheem Mostert.
Mostert's incorrect.
What? Oh man.
What? Okay, so hold on. So far, it's Ayuk,
Wilson, McKinnon, and Juszczyk.
Okay.
Wow. So Mostert had 2 touchdowns in the first 2.
Less than 4.
Jack, I got a guess, but I don't know if I'm right. It's 1 of 2 guys.
Go ahead, take it.
Jordan Reed.
Jordan Reed's correct.
Nice.
I had a feeling he had more than Kendrick Bourne this year.
I feel like they were all in the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, they were. He had 2 against the Jets. Yeah. And 1 against the Giants, I think. Okay.
Okay, and then that brings us to today. Today is March 19th, I believe. I might have messed up the date, but 30-19. So true or false, C.J. Beathard, who's number 3, and Deebo Samuel, who's number 19, have never linked up for a touchdown.
True.
That is correct. It is true. Somehow Deebo Samuel, all his touchdowns are either rushing or from Garoppolo. Sorry, Grant, if this sucks. This is bad.
No, I like that. No, I liked it.
Half of the 49ers games were decided by double digits. What games were those? So of the 16 games, they had 8 that were double digit differences. And Grant goes with Pats first.
Jets.
Jets is correct.
Giants.
Giants is correct.
Dolphins.
Dolphins is correct.
Bills.
Bills is correct. There's 3 more.
Seattle.
Seattle's correct.
Dallas.
Double digits, you said?
Yeah, double digits.
The second Arizona game.
No, incorrect.
Word? I thought it was 24-12. Oh, it was 19-12. Oh yeah, something like that.
It was 20 to 12.
20 to 12.
Jack said
yeah.
the Saints. That's correct. So there's one
Oh, yeah,
more.
they played the Saints.
Anyone got the last one?
I'm out.
Is it the Washington football team?
That is incorrect. I'll throw it to you guys. It is the very fun.
It was.
What?
Say again. No, say it again.
Seattle. The Seattle game. The first one.
Well, Seattle's already said it's the very memorable Green Bay Packers Thursday night game that we all.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was really
Pandemic
fun. It was when Grant learned who River Craycraft is, and I think he'll cherish that for the rest of his life.
Okay,
final of this last one.
Final of this.
Jeff Wilson Jr. and Kyle Juszczyk combined for the 49ers last 5 touchdowns this year, and 6 of the last 7. Who had the other touchdown of the last 7 scored this year?
Bourne. Hail Mary.
That's correct. The Hail Mary versus Dallas.
Nice.
So I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Grant is up 1.
Oh! I didn't even know that. All right, final time.
So I think it's 4 to 3 to 3 or whatever the numbers are, but Grant's up 1.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, final. Ken Webster got charged with a fumble when Richie James, I think it was Richie James, did not catch a punt.
It was Trent Taylor, right?
Or if it was either way, a guy didn't catch a punt and it hit Ken Webster and he got charged with a fumble. Who are the 9 other players on the 49ers this year that had fumbles?
Raheem Mostert.
Raheem Mostert is correct.
Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yes.
Nick Mullins.
Correct.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
Correct.
CJ Beathard.
Correct. We got 4 more.
Dante Pettis.
Ah!
Yeah, the awesome kick return.
I was waiting for that one. That was my next one.
3 more. Richie James is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Hasty.
Hasty's correct. 1 more.
Oh, pressure's on. Pressure's on. Nope. Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel's incorrect.
Did we already say Juszczyk?
Juszczyk's the last one, so no, but that's correct.
I was gonna say Juszczyk.
Nice.
Good boy, man.
Yeah, so
Nice, Jack.
You
Jack
swept
wins.
it. Yeah, I believe
Jack
it's a tie. Grant and Jack tied on points.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh,
Nice, Jack. Coming from behind.
attaboy, Jack.
Attaboy, Jack.
Attaboy,
I
Jack.
still don't know if I keep score
Jack.
correctly, but yeah, I mean,
I'll take it. That works. All right. Well, that was a fun game. Thank you, Maverick, for doing. That's all Maverick, by the way. We're like, hey, Maverick, entertain us with questions, and he does. So I appreciate it. Thank you. You did a great job, man. And thanks everyone for watching. I'm gonna be back in about an hour, breaking down some college film of some cornerbacks. So if you want to watch some college film, I'll be back then. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I'll see you this weekend. Take care, everyone.